The room tilts when the alert pops on my screen, and I am Helena Montez, 35 years old, a senior bank executive with a whisper of power that never wears off. And that whisper only grows louder the moment I realize the cost of a single betrayal. I have learned to measure risk with the same calm I use to count breaths, and I have learned that the deepest wounds can become the sharpest instruments. So I keep my secret ambition tucked away like a weapon I will one day need, not to hurt, but to equalize, not to crush, but to reset the balance of trust in a city that loves to pretend it is fair, until the numbers tell a different truth. And the personal thread that frames this episode is the one I never speak aloud, the severed heartline that remains after a man I trusted chose another. A choice made in the shadows with my closest ally at my side. A best friend who stood by me in the glare of daylight and in the hush of late nights. And now that same triangle returns to test me again as... The event that frames this episode is not a scandal for headlines, but a living score. A reminder that trust is a currency I have spent and earned again in different markets. And the man who betrayed me once now enters a room where every move is watched, where every gesture carries a draft of history, where every choice will be weighed against my reputation for steadiness under fire. And I know that if I play this hand badly, I will be remembered as the one who collapsed when the risk became personal. So I hold my breath and let the memory of his betrayal sharpen my senses rather than dull them, letting the old ache become the catalyst for the iron resolve I wear like a tailored suit. So when he steps into my orbit, I am ready to see him clearly and to act decisively without anger staining the facts. My hidden ambition, the one I guard, is to prove that a life sculpted by discipline can rewrite the rules for others who think they can pick and choose who is loyal and who is expendable. That a woman who has learned to govern a vast machine can govern the moment of truth with quiet precision. That a heart that has survived a wound can still find a path to a future where trust is guarded by transparent action and every promise is tested by a ledger. And I have kept this ambition close because I know ambition without mercy becomes cruelty, and ambition with mercy becomes justice. And I want the second kind of ambition to endure long after this episode ends. The personal event that frames this episode is the collision of memory with opportunity. A past romance with my best friend, now airing as a lesson to the room that believes forgiveness is a shortcut. And I am the one who must decide whether the past will be a chain or a compass, whether the sting will corrode or harden me, whether I will use this moment to quiet the noise of rumors or to tune them into an undeniable truth that will shape the future of every project I touch. And I choose the latter. Because the path of a woman who commands a bank must be anchored in evidence and courage, not in pity or sentiment. And so I map a plan that uses the very energy of his legacy against him, not to humiliate, but to illuminate, not to destroy, but to clarify. Revealing in time what his future could be if he learned restraint, while showing the rest of the organization that loyalty is not a line drawn in sand, but a standard etched into every decision, clear as a balance sheet and just as unforgive. The first move is not loud, it is surgical, a step that turns his presence from a rumor into a trigger, a catalyst that will expose deviations through the quiet strength of the data. And I assemble a team of bright minds who see the patterns as I see them, who understand that risk and ethics must walk hand in hand, who know that a single misstep can ripple out and erode trust across the entire system. And as the days tilt toward a verdict, I watch the board respond to the numbers like a chorus responding to a conductor, the room steady, the hum of the projector a thin line between revelation and consequence. And I feel the old ache of heartbreak reframe itself as a sharper blade, because I know the moment will come when I must present the truth in a way that cannot be denied, not by sentiment, but by the undeniable logic of traceable actions. The traceable way he moved through the system, the patterns he left in the files, the footprints that lead to a corner of the ledger where his arrow. If you love Helena's journey, like and subscribe to join her next chapter. The confrontation arrives not with a shout, but with a measured quiet, as I stand at the head of the room and invite the numbers to speak for themselves. To tell the story of a man who believed he could rewrite his fate by bending trust. To reveal the discrepancy between what he promised and what he practiced. And as the data aligns with the witnesses and the policies we have spent years defending, the room shifts, the air grows thinner, and the truth takes center stage with a gravity that no smirk can suspend. He tries a few evasive lines, a couple of soft apologies that taste of rehearsed scripts. But the ledger is merciless, and the committee is tired of the theater. And I watch as their questions hinge on the same point. How much damage was done, and how will we prevent it from happening again? And I answer with a clarity that has grown from years spent under pressure. A clarity that knows when to be generous and when to be ruthless. A balance I have learned to maintain as if it were a spine straightening under a tailored jacket. The outcome is clinical, orderly, and just enough to restore faith in the process, without turning the man into a martyr or a monster. A decision that preserves the dignity of those who trusted us, imposes a consequence heavy enough to deter others, and leaves room for a future where loyalty is earned again, not instantly granted, and where I am not defined by the wound, but defined by the way I turn it into a framework for better governance and for a culture that prefers truth to convenience. In the days that follow, I walk the floors with a new gravity, a quiet confidence that the city respects a leader who will not bend when the past tries to pull her down. And I watch as colleagues who once doubted me now nod with a shared understanding that this is how a bank survives, not by fear, not by vengeance, but by disciplined action that makes the right choice inevitable. The kind of choice that buys time for those who will follow to build better habits. Better habits that will protect not just numbers, but people. And I feel something like relief and something like awe. The realization that revenge, when measured and precise, can become the catalyst for a culture of accountability that outlasts any single name or any single moment. A realization that I will carry into every future negotiation, every risk assessment, every quiet conversation in a corridor where the city breathes its unfinished hopes. The night closes in on the skyline, and I am again alone with the glow from the ceiling lamps, and I allow myself a private moment to acknowledge the toll such clarity takes, to admit that a price has been paid in sleep and trust and quiet moments of doubt, but to affirm that the payoff is a future where trust is guarded by transparent process and a woman who knows how to wield power without losing her humanity. And I tell myself that the journey ahead will demand even more of me, more patience, more courage, more mercy, and more steel, and that I will give it all, because I know what it feels like to be underestimated and what it takes to become indispensable. And I am ready to lead again with a wiser heart and a sharper eye, ready to protect what matters and ready to hold others to the same high standard I now live by. And so I step into the corridor with the city's hum in my ears and the calm I have earned as a shield, ready for the next challenge. And I invite you to stay with me on T. Final call to action. Stay with me and join the journey by liking, subscribing, and following my path as it unfolds.